Thank you. Beckham, seriously. Get out. Hey guys, welcome to another live show, another live She Knows Arsenal. Make sure you guys are liking the video and subscribing to the channel, and most importantly, getting into the chat and letting us know what you guys are thinking and feeling. And by us, I mean me and Dan. Dan is back on the channel. It's been a while. Dan, how is everything going? How's the channel going for you? Let me know, what's been going on with you?
Listen, first of all, big up to you. I haven't seen you for way too long. Glad to see you're well and still plugging content. Listen, I'm good. It's a pleasure to be here, and it's actually nice to talk about Arsenal when we're winning, which hasn't been a lot at all this season. But listen, it's a good time to chat Arsenal. I'm all good. Channel's all going well. Still over Football's 12th man. Got a show later on, which will be good as well. So yeah, come follow me over there. But pleasure to be on, Jess.
Yeah, you can just click the link in the title and you'll go to his channel, I believe. Let me just make sure of that. But yeah, it's a nice time to be talking about Arsenal because we actually won 2 games, which is great. For a minute, like it felt like we were never going to win again. That's, when we're on a bad streak, I'm like, we're never going to win again, are we? But we've come up with the back of like a really good week. And so I want to talk to you about that, but I want to rewind just a little bit because, I watch your content. I look at what you say on Twitter and stuff, and I get the feeling you weren't like super enthused by the transfer window and the way that we started. So if you can just give us like a little summary of how you felt going into the season, knowing how important it was and what your expectations were.
Yeah, so for all those that watch what I do and listen to what I do, I think there's a lot of people in the content world that I disagree with. There's a lot of people that I agree with. But on this one, there's only really Turkish, I would say, that I agreed with quite wholeheartedly about this transfer window. And I just remember it shutting, Jess, thinking, I'm angry. I'm frustrated. This ain't enough. Like, I can still see we're short. And I think what really kind of frustrated me even more was the injuries that we got in the key positions that we could not afford to have them. Just proved that me and Turkish were right to be concerned, and it come to fruition, and we were so frustrated by that because, like in football, people want to be right. I actually, the opposite. I'd like to be wrong because there's quite a lot of stuff I say that I'm like, oh, please be wrong. Like, I don't think that's going to happen, but please be wrong because it means it's good for the club. I'm so sick and tired of getting little bits and pieces right where people keep shouting down, oh, just stop being the negative one and let's just see what happens. But unfortunately, I just said, look, we cannot lose Ødegaard, we cannot lose Rice, and we cannot lose Saka here because the window's not been good enough. And all 3 of those players happen to get suspended and injured. And I was like, you're kidding me. Like, what are the chances of that, right? So I thought the window was bang average. I've got to be honest. I think Calafiori is fine. I think Marino is fine. But Raheem Sterling, when you've got rid of the 4 players that were your youngsters in Eddie and Reece and Fabio Vieira and Smith Rowe, and you're bringing in Raheem Sterling as your only option on top of that, I felt we were left short, and I thought it was quite underwhelming to end it. So yeah, I was quite frustrated, and I did call out the club, the Cronkies, and Edu. I don't think you know how much still that you can call out Arteta for that, because I think that although he's involved in where you go with what players he would like, essentially you need the guys to do the business for you, right? And I don't think that we did enough for him. I really don't. So I've got to say, Jess, I was disappointed, and I think I had a right to be. I still think we're a couple short, man.
Yeah, I think if you came out of that transfer window thinking that we addressed what we needed to address, I think you're being disingenuous, because most of us went into this window, I feel like, saying the same things, that we needed something else at the top end of the pitch, whether you felt like that was at left wing or up front in the center, center forward. I think we all kind of felt the same. And I think the club also felt the same, because not only were there reports coming out after we went out to Bayern that we needed X factor, but right after we lost to Aston Villa, they were saying, yeah, we're going to go after Isak, we're going to go after Olise. And we didn't do any of that. Our targets were Sesko and Nico Williams. We couldn't get either one of those. And it's almost like we decided, well, we're not going to do anything. And Sterling, as much as I don't want to shit on him, because I know that Sterling is a quality player and has done a lot in the Premier League. That's not what we expected. I think all of us could be honest that that's not what we expected. So I had my little crash out. And I said on several streams that they made their bed, now they have to lie in it. And I meant that, because when Odegaard got injured, it was like, damn, it couldn't have gotten, like, that could have been any worse. The one player that you kind of needed to stay fit beyond, like Saliba and Saka, got injured for a significant amount of time, and we went through a really bad period. Do you feel like that bad period that we went through, where like Trossard was playing in the 10 and we couldn't really score goals and it was strange, was just more bad luck, or was it, just Odegaard's like being out? Because I know people have different diagnoses for like what was going on then. I've seen people say that the refs robbed us, but sometimes I feel like we want to make it somebody else so badly that we don't look internally and say, like, did we set ourselves up for success or failure?
Yeah, I think it's a really good question. The best way for me to answer it is in two. I think that there was a lack of preparation in the summer as to why we've dropped points. And I also think that the manager has to take a huge L at how he was setting us up whilst those players were injured. Because for me, I don't think there was enough trust in Ethan Nwaneri. I don't think Marino can play in the 10. I don't think that you can look to play and set up in how he played or set up against Newcastle and Bournemouth in particular. And I think it comes back down to the summer. Now, you can look at the referees and the red cards and the corruption if you want. That's fine. There's definitely poor refereeing in this country. I'm not going to deny that there isn't. I'm not going to deny that there is some weird decisions at times. And I'm not going to deny that we've had a little bit of bad luck. But that's not the reason we're 9 points off of Liverpool. I don't look at the scenario against Brighton and think, wow, I know we missed a load of sitters, but it's definitely the referee's fault. No, we missed a lot of sitters. We should have been 3 or 4-1 up against Brighton. But we were 1-1 or 1-0 it was actually. And then we went down to 10 and then we struggled. Against Manchester City, we actually had them, in my opinion, 11v11. It was looking comfortable. We were looking very good. Trossard went and smashed the ball up in the air, and then a lot changes. So is that the referee's fault? Like, I just look at that and I think, yeah, there's definitely question marks over should they have been sent off second yellows. Does that happen to other players? That's fine by me. But come on, man, in every single sending off, you can see why we've given the referee a decision to make. Declan Rice has given the referee a decision to make. Don't expect him to get the right one because they're awful. Yeah, Trossard has gone, right, I'm going to smash this ball up in the air. Let's see if the ref does anything. Don't expect the ref to get it right. And Saliba's pulled the guy back for last man. So then he's got an option to make. So every single scenario, there's been a decision to make. And I just don't think that Arteta has dealt with the system too well and the replacements for that. I don't think the summer window was great. And I think straight away, what was frustrating for me just actually was I looked at that transfer window, it's shut, and I thought, it ain't good enough. I've had my rant. Now let's get to the football because it's shut now. And I'm glad it's shut because I don't care about talking about transfers anymore. And I looked at it and I thought maybe this might go all right. But I think that at some stage in February, March, April, it's going to come back to bite us. It bit us in bloody October and November. We didn't even get 3 months into the season before we started to be proven right. And that's what pissed me off the most, really, I think. So, look, we're on good way at the moment, but the damage is kind of done, certainly for the Premier League. And we've got to now pray that it doesn't cost us in May.
Do you think like the Premier League is sewn up, like we can't recover? Because I mean, 9 points is a lot, but people are saying it's early. Do you think we can close the gap and maybe make it more difficult for Liverpool, or do you think it really is done?
I think the title's done for now, and it's a
Okay.
bit of a cop-out way to say it, really. Because I can't make a decision in November on whether a title was done or not. But certainly, if I had to put my money on it, I'm not putting it on Arsenal. Let me tell you that. I could ask it a different way, and I could say, how many games are left? 25? 25 games, something like that. Let's just say it's 25 games. If there was 25 games this season, Jess, and I said to you, here's some money, put it on a team to win this game. There's only 25 games. Arsenal start on -9. Are you putting it on Arsenal? No, you're not.
No,
So, do you know what I mean? That's where we have to be realistic about it. So I think we are. Listen, ask me in January if we're 3 points behind Liverpool. Yeah, we're in a title race, big time. So
yeah.
right now, no. But there's a long way to go. There is. I get that.
Yeah, I really don't like this catch-up thing that we're getting used to now. I know that we don't like leading because we weren't good at leading, but then also I don't like this having to close the gap after a really bad start. I wish we kind of were closer and not feeling so unsure so early. And so I agree with you that, starting off poorly is kind of like, was it the window? Could we have done better there? I think we could have, but blaming the refs for everything that's happened, I think is disingenuous when you look at, like you said, there were chances that we could have had in multiple of those games. Those results were so close that they definitely could have went in another direction if we had attacked the game differently. And I think Arteta in these last two games not only has like gotten his players back, like obviously he gets Odegaard back, so we start playing better, but it almost feels like he's let the reins go a little bit, which is something that I think a lot of us has spoken about in terms of like the attack, is we were so like rigid at the beginning of the season. It was like, I don't know if he just like didn't, I don't know what was going on. But now all of a sudden everybody's playing closer together, guys are connecting, da da da. And I'm just like, why couldn't we do this sooner? Why do we have to collapse for us to like do this kind of stuff? The Nottingham Forest and Sporting games were great games. For you, like if you had to pick like two or three things that you feel like were the biggest difference makers in those games, what do you think that they were?
So I think you're absolutely right about the style of play thing. And that definitely changed. The shackles come off is the first thing I saw. The shackles come off. There was no more worried about defending first. There was no more overthinking about the cautiousness of conceding goals. I don't think we were as rigid. We definitely didn't start whacking the ball in the box like we were. It was just at one stage crossing the box and just line up, and one of you will get your head on it eventually. I don't like that style of play. I don't mind that in the last 10 minutes of a game when you're losing, but I don't certainly want to start that way. So that changed. The other thing I thought changed was our right-hand side has just become stronger. And it isn't because of Odegaard, it's because of Timber and Odegaard. That together is superb. And I've just said on Sophie's channel, and I say it again, I love Ben White. I think he's brilliant. And I love his shithousery. I love how he defends. I love how he overlaps with Saka. I've got to say it, I think Timber's better. I honestly do. I look at the athleticism, I look at how good he is defensively, but I look at what he's doing, the telepathy of the team right now. I think he's phenomenal. I really, really like him. And I think that right-hand side has definitely got better. So that is definitely something that's changed. And I think the other thing that's changed, and people don't like me saying this, Jess, but I'm not saying this because I'm slating Havertz, a player who I rate, by the way, and I'm quite happily keeping the squad. I thought we were much more free-flowing without him. I thought we were actually a lot more free-flowing without trying to lump it up to him and hope that it glues to his body. I actually think that although Jesus was pretty ineffective in parts still, I actually felt we were a lot more free-flowing with Odegaard and Saka, not looking up and going, right, can we flick it into his chest? No, he's not there. Like, we've got to play it into more on the floor now. And I just liked that. I just preferred that, which is, makes me wonder, I know you're going to come on later to who we might need up top. It makes me wonder what we actually might need up top, and it might not be another big lump. It might be a different form of striker, because actually I quite enjoyed that. And I think if we can get our left-hand side playing anywhere near to our right-hand side, we've got a great chance of winning something.
It's interesting because on my earlier stream, we touched on so many of those like key points. Talked about Timber, and I think for about 20 minutes, I had to reiterate that I love Ben White. I would not accept any bid for Ben White. I love him down, and he is a top player. But I think it's pretty clear that Timber is just a more talented footballer, and I think he just has more to his game. Ben White may edge him just ever so slightly on like passing, but it's the like defensive things that he can do. I think we've spoke about about Ben White's defensive abilities in wide areas. Timber definitely, I think, locks down wingers a lot better and allows Saka to stay higher because he doesn't have to help him as much, and that helps us be more dynamic up front. So I think in a moment where we're not going to have Ben White for a while, we need to protect Timber as much as possible, because without Timber, we're looking at Thomas Partey at right back. I feel like that's literally what would happen, and I don't think any of us want to see that, even though he played well there against Liverpool. So, yeah, I agree that it's a combination of Odegaard and Timber, and both of them make our right side really strong. But that left-hand side definitely still is missing some things. I wanted to ask you about Martinelli. You mentioned we're more free flowing without Kai Havertz, and that makes sense because Jesus is more of a total footballer type of guy. But what about Martinelli? He's had kind of depending on who you ask, some people say he's had a good season. Other people say that he's been out of form. What is your feeling on Martinelli and whether or not we can upgrade on him?
It's a really hard one for me because I really like Martinelli. One of my favourite players. I love his tenacity. I love his never say die attitude. I think he works tirelessly. I think he's passionate. I think he's got great drive on the ball. My problem is he's fallen off of a cliff, Jess. And I look back at his career now and I think, have you actually got better or developed since 18, 19? Because I'm not sure I've seen it. You've always been this good. There's been never really any progression with it. And now I've in fact started to see him get a little bit more aggression. He doesn't seem to be the confident to take on his man as much anymore. He doesn't seem as confident to drive into the box anymore. I have made excuses for Martinelli, and I think it's harsh for me to do that. I think the reason I'm doing it is because I like him. Sometimes you've got to look at his performance himself and say, come on, bro, you've really got to pick yourself up. The excuses I've made is that his left-hand side is completely chopping and changing. There's no sustainability on that left-hand side. I've seen about 4 or 5 left backs even, and the 4 or 5 left backs that we played, it's normally a different left 8 that plays as well. So Martinelli has been trying to play for the next last 2 seasons really, with Rice in the 8, Vieira in the 8, Trossard in the 8, Havertz in the 8. Sometimes at the left back it's been Zinchenko, Tomiyasu, Timber, and Kieran Tierney where he started. I'm not sure that that's fair really. So he hasn't really had any sustainability other than Havertz up top and Gabriel as a left centre back. That's it. Everyone else is chopping and changing. I think he definitely needs to improve on his game a lot more. And I think he can do, because at 23, you're definitely nowhere near ready to be, done learning. I think he needs to get his head up a hell of a lot more. But there's certainly games I look at and I think, yeah, you're perfect for here. And then he will disappear again for another one. So I think it's a lack of consistency, really. We saw him score for 15 goals, was it, in one of the seasons before last? And I thought, wow, this is phenomenal from Martinelli. And I think we got 15 from Jesus, Odegaard and Saka as well. But he's definitely needs to improve. And I actually do think I would start him. Trossard for me as a sub. There were opportunities I looked at Trossard starting because I felt like there was a reward for him coming on and scoring, meant that he should start now. But actually, he's just not a starter. He's a sub, in my opinion. And I think Martinelli's a starter. The problem I've got with Martinelli is he needs to show a level of consistency that warrants his start. And I just think, I don't know what your thoughts are on this, I just think Mikel Arteta is looking at a left winger. He's tried Mudryk, he tried Nico Williams, we got Trossard, but he definitely wants one, that's for sure. I think a left winger, I would love to see somebody like Kvaratskhelia coming in. I think that's unrealistic, but somebody at that level I think needs to come in. Nico Williams is all good, but I think that's probably what Martinelli might need to give him a kick up the backside, because Trossard's not quite, he's coming in and Martinelli's like, I'm going to be back in soon because Trossard's not cutting it. I think maybe some competition might be good for Martinelli.
Yeah, no, I hear that. I've always kind of felt like, when you look at the team, you can see that there's maybe 4 or 5 players that walk into the team when they're fit. Even if they're 75% fit, they're going to play. We know who those players are. I don't think I've ever really put Martinelli in that group. And I think because he's limited, and I feel like we need just a little bit more in that position, because if he's not clinical, which he's mostly clinical when he gets to finish first time, like we saw, against Chelsea and like we've seen against Sporting, those are one-time finishes. That's what he's really good at. The more he has to think, the worse I think he is, because he overthinks things and he doesn't have the ability to problem solve quickly, and he doesn't have the tools. So yeah, I think we could add somebody else. Kvaratskhelia is somebody that people have spoken about a lot. Leao is somebody that people have talked about a lot. Getting those types of players inevitably means that Kai Havertz is your number 9 for the foreseeable. And that's kind of the position that we're in, is because we've kind of kicked the can down the road several times. We need a new left winger. We need a new center forward. We need another midfielder. We're going to need like a defender, because we buy a defender every window. So it's like, how many of these things can we actually get done? So Martinelli is kind of that type of player that we need to like get going now, because we're not going to be able to change anything. I don't think Sterling is knocking on the door. Trossard is not going to take his spot. But you look at Martinelli long term, even as a 23-year-old, I'm just like, yeah, I don't think you're going to be on Odegaard and Saka's level, which I feel like we need. I feel like we're lacking that on the other side. So I definitely agree with you. Let's read some of these comments. Elliot says Kvaratskhelia or Leao would be an excellent buy for Arsenal. Arsenal Perspective says, interesting take that Martinelli is not being pushed enough, not getting enough competition. I never thought of that, Dan. Food for thought. Maybe he does need competition. That is a good point. I never really thought of he needed competition. I'm just like, we just need to get somebody else. Blaze says Arteta even was interested in Rashford for left winger. I think he wants somebody fast, but Martinelli is fast. No, I don't think anybody wants Rashford anymore. No. Natalie says Trossard didn't seem happy with the goal, or so it seems. Trossard is a moody guy. I wouldn't take anything from
he's so moody.
Yeah, he's so like moody and kind of like, you know how he is. So I wouldn't take anything from him not selling. First of all, it was our 5th goal anyway. Like, we were smashing them and he just came off the bench. Like, he's not going to run around and celebrate. Like, it's fine. Sardar says we need to sign Gyokeres, Nico Williams, or Kvaratskhelia, and we need another number 10. House of Kings says, Bias Jess, your last stream was so embarrassing, and you know why? Okay, then why are you here? Nico says, big up to Jess and Potts. So yeah, the amount of people that join your stream just to tell you that they don't like what you're saying, it's just like,
I get that a lot.
Oh my god. Victor says Arteta wants more controlled, purposeful speed. Martinelli is fast, but he is uncontrolled. So yeah, I think Martinelli can be upgraded upon, but we have to do with what we have to do with for now. Let's talk about Gyokeres. What did you make of his performance yesterday as one of the main guys that people are like, we need to bring in for that number 9 position? Were you impressed?
Yeah, I've been one of those guys who has liked Victor Gyokeres, and I don't think people are complimenting Gabriel and Saliba enough yesterday. I thought they were immense. I thought they were absolutely immense. I thought they ate him up. I thought they gave him absolutely nothing. And we saw, didn't we, when Gabriel came off, that Kivior comes on, and I'm not slating Kivior here in any way, shape, or form. But Gyokeres destroyed him. He used his pace. He pushed him off, and then he scored. He hit the post. I think Raya might have even got a touch on it in the end. And I thought, well, that's what he does. That's what he can do. The other thing that they weren't doing for him was actually using him. They weren't utilising his strengths whatsoever. I thought they were pretty poor, in fact, in parts of the game. They weren't lumping it up to him. They weren't asking him to drop deep to come and actually get the ball. He decided to, in the end, just go and get into the mix of it because no one was getting the ball to him. So I thought Arsenal's performance made him look very average. And that's the biggest compliment I can give, because there always seems with Victor Gyokeres to be this, that guy, the Victor Gyokeres, he's scoring at the moment. Yeah, what, the one who did it at Coventry? Yeah, well, when he's now doing it at Coventry, he's doing it at Portuguese. What, the Farmers League? Yeah, but he's actually doing it in Portugal when no one else is doing it in Portugal, and he's doing it for his country. Oh, what, for Sweden? That's easy to do in Sweden. Yeah, but he's actually got a hat-trick in the Champions League now as well. What, 2 of them are penalties? Right, okay, he's rubbish there. He's no good. He's absolutely awful, and he's just another Eddie Nketiah. Like, what do you want me to say? Like, I don't get this. This guy is clearly like smashing goals in left, right, and centre. Yeah. He's got 58 goals and assists in 50 games of last year, and so far this year, I think he's got about 9 in 6 or something crazy like that. So this guy's on fire. He's been phenomenal. I don't think we will end up seeing him in an Arsenal shirt, unfortunately. I think that we are seeing a lot of rumours around Chelsea, United, and actually Barcelona are the favourites if you ask most people about his signature. So look, I thought we kept him quiet yesterday, and I think that if you looked at that game in like just sole focus, you might look at Gyokeres and think, he looks all right, looks a bit of a handful, but didn't really do much. But I did that with Haaland. Haaland got eaten up by Gabriel and Saliba against Arsenal, but you wouldn't go, oh, rubbish. He's rubbish, that Haaland. He's awful. You wouldn't say that, would you? Because he's destroying teams. So I think that's where you've got to look at it now. I would still take Gyokeres 100%.
Yeah, I feel like we're on the exact same page with this because if you get eaten up by Saliba and Gabrielle, you just got ate up by Saliba and Gabrielle. You're probably only going to meet another center back pairing like that if you go up against Liverpool, because I feel like they're the only other center back pairing that's at the same level. I know some Liverpool fan would probably choke if they heard me say that, but I do think it's true. You know, I think when you look at center back pairings that are formidable, it's Virgil van Dijk and Konate and Saliba and Gabrielle. Everybody else, you could probably get some change. And if he was playing for a team that was actually the more dominant side, he may have done better on the day. Like if he was in our team, would he have drawn blank? Probably not. So I think people are being harsh on him. And if you just didn't want him, this was your perfect, like, well, see, he's shit. But I don't think he is. And I'm really hoping that if we don't get him, he doesn't go to another Premier League side because I don't want to see that. He needs to go somewhere else, period.
I
But
hope he
you
can
made
come Arsenal if he don't come Arsenal. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Go somewhere. But yeah, you said earlier that maybe we need something like because Gabriel Jesus was added a little bit of something, against Nottingham Forest that maybe we don't need another big lump. Who is that other player that offers all of those things, because we need ideally if you want to upgrade on Havertz, which is why it's so difficult, because if you want somebody that does other things other than scoring goals, we already have two players that do that. So obviously we need somebody that's going to score 20 plus goals a season and is going to have that X factor, but they can't just be a big lump, but we don't want somebody that's like not really a goal threat, so it's difficult to figure out who that player is. A lot of people feel like it's Isak. Are we going to really go out there and get 115 million pound Isak? What is your feelings on Isak and how much of a upgrade he would be on Kai Havertz?
So it'd be a huge upgrade on Kai Havertz. Do I think it's realistic? Well, he's got to want to go. That's the first thing he's got to want. The second thing is Newcastle are going to have to be willing to sell for the right price. And the third thing is Arsenal's going to have to try and meet that price demand. And I just think those three things happening together in the summer is going to be quite rare, if I'm honest with you. Now, the first thing that could happen is he might want to leave because Newcastle might not get Champions League football. And I think that he needs to play that. So there could be an opportunity. Are Arsenal going to go and spend 120 million on him? Because that's how much he's going to be, in my opinion. I'd probably say no, if I'm honest. Now, we did do that with Rice, and maybe that we are saving up and we're going for it. But I do worry about where we're going with this striker because the only players I've ever seen us linked with up top are Vlahovic and Cesc. There's never been any links with Gyokeres. There's never been any links with Isak. There's never been any links with any of the others, if I'm honest with you. We've got to decide what our number 9 wants to be. If we want another type Havertz that's got the stature of a Kai Havertz, then there's only really Vlahovic or Gyokeres. And I'm not too sure about Vlahovic, if I'm honest, but I think Gyokeres would be a good signing. If you want the other type that's going to give you that electric pace and power on goals, it's Isak or Osimhen. And I think we've got to decide what one we want. Unfortunately, the one that I think we want is Cesc. And if I'm honest with you, mate, I am not impressed by what I've seen from him. I think that he is. I think he's all right. I think he's pretty okay. I'm not sure it's a massive upgrade on Havertz though. Cesc. Now, listen, he's got potential to be better because Havertz is 25 and Cesc is 21, I think, or is he even 20?
Yeah.
I'm not even sure he's 21 yet. So there's a lot of potential for him, right? But from what I've seen from him, he couldn't lay a glove on Celtic the other night and they got spanked 3-1. That's never a good start when you're losing to Celtic, in my opinion. And when I've seen him for his country, I've not really seen much of what he does, if I'm honest with you. And I think he gets quite a kind of large rep in terms of how good he could be. I think his strike partner at Leipzig's better than him, if I'm honest. I think Openda's better. I think he's scoring more goals than him. He looks to be every season outscoring him. So I'm not quite sure what they've seen in Cesc that, they like. I also think Cesc might be good in a few years, but I don't want players that are good in a few years, Jess. I want players that are good now. And I think that, we've got enough of these young players that might be ready in a few years' time. I think we need to look at who's ready now. And I think the Gyokeres is the guy that's ready now, and so is Isak. So let's hope that one of those comes in the door. But I'm not too sure what's going to happen with Arteta and the strikers, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I think one of the worst parts about this is we have two players that play in that number 9 position that are our two highest earners. And I know people don't want to hear this, but wages always comes into play. You can't have a player on 260,000 pounds a week, 250,000 pounds per week on the bench. So that's where the Havertz situation kind of like is like, okay, are we actually going to pull the trigger? Or are we going to go get somebody younger? I think that's why they were going after Sesko, because they knew that they could maybe have him as like a younger player that's kind of like, a projected star. So, but there wasn't a lot of pressure to start him, but he didn't want to sit the bench, which a lot of young players do not. If he's already starting at Leipzig, then why would he come sit on our bench kind of situation, right? And so Arsenal are in a really weird position, I think, where they need to pull the trigger on at least one of these forward positions and get a superstar in, but they put themselves in a situation where they probably need to sell Jesus, and then they also need to be okay with sitting Kai Havertz on the bench. And if they're not okay with doing that, then they need to set Martinelli on the bench. We can't improve by kind of like tipping around it, like how Arteta was really kind of heavy-handed with Ramsdale and brought in Raya and sat him. He's going to have to be, I think, heavy-handed here too, which probably, won't go down well with certain people. But I just think, what are we waiting on? How much longer are we going to wait? And this is why I'm also really adamant about this sporting director being a top level sporting director and not just some Per Mertesacker or Rosicky type, because this person will be able to identify maybe a player that we're not thinking of at the moment that, in our environment that can go up 5 or 10% and can be a better option at a lower price point. Because my biggest concern is 115 million on Isak means you're not getting anything else. And we know, I mean, do you think Isak just alone would be enough? Because I still think we'd still need
No,
more, but yeah. Okay.
no, we need more. We need more, and I think everyone knows we need more. The problem is everybody that we want is going to be £100 million. Everybody that we want now, because that's the level we're at now, Jess. We got to a stage where the players coming in have to be elite, and that means they're going to need 100 to 150 for everyone you want. You want Kvaratskhelia as your winger? He's not going to be 50 million. He's going to be double that. Isak's going to be over 100. I think for a left 8 that we still clearly need, it needs to be somebody in the version like a Frankie de Jong or a Bruno Gomes. They're not going to be 50 million. At the back, you're not going to get any defenders at fullback or centre back half now that are 25 million anymore, unless they're going to be squad players. So that's the reality. We're going to have to spend another 200 or 300 million on this squad, maybe more. And and the thing is, we're not. I said this to Soph earlier. We're not a team I don't think Arsenal are going to be right. Finally, we've got our 20. Now we're nearly to sign anyone for the next 5 years. It doesn't work like that. You're always going to have to sign someone. You're going to have to, because you evolve. Zinchenko and Jesus, they need to go. They both need to leave. And that doesn't mean they're terrible footballers. It means that Arsenal complementary have got so much better that they've outgrown the likes of Jesus and Zinchenko. It doesn't mean you just, but they're quite nice people. We keep them around the place. They've done well. No, we get rid of them because we've got to keep growing. And that's how it works now. You don't get 18 players and keep those same 18 for 5-6 years. You have to keep going. And it's tough now because the players we want, they're going to be a hell of a lot of money. A hell of a lot.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with that. I just don't think a striker is enough. And like I said, we keep kicking the can down the road with some of these signings, and it's time to pull the trigger on at least one of them and just figure out which one is the most important. Personally, I think you have to get a striker and a winger in one window. And I know people are looking at the January window. And one thing that I did say when the window shut in the summer is I was like, we were going to get to November and people are going to be talking about the January window. It didn't even take that long. It was like September and people were like, oh, what about the January window? It's not a big historical window for Arsenal. So I would temper down my expectations just a little bit, but we have been linked with Arda Güler in the January window, as well as like people are linking us, like fans are linking us to maybe getting Ferguson because he's going to be available on loan from Brighton. Are you taking up any of those offers, or you don't think that those, do you think that those would make a difference?
I would ask the question, if we sign Arda Güler, what happens to Ethan Nwaneri? That's what I would say. And I know that sounds really, what's the word, like defeatist, but I am looking at Ethan thinking, wow. I'm not looking at Ethan thinking, yeah, maybe ready in a few years. I'm looking at Ethan going, now you're ready, mate. You're ready. And if we got Arda Güler, then what does that mean for his future? I think that could block the pathway for him potentially. Look, if he's better than Nwaneri on the pitch in any shape, way, and form, then you bring him in because it's bringing in quality, right?
Yeah.
So Brahim Diaz also being mentioned as well. Who would probably make more sense than Arda Güler, because obviously he can play on the left, which is a position that we need, and that Arteta really thinks we need. But if I'm honest with you, in January, if it's not going to be a forward, I'm not really too fussed about getting other centre backs in and getting other full backs in and getting another goalkeeper in. Like, it just doesn't interest me, Jess. Like, I know that people talk about this Espanyol goalkeeper coming in. It's like, look, let's just stop with the goalkeepers. We've had about 12 since Arteta's been here. Like, let's just stick with Raya. Use this Neto guy as the backup. In defence, I think, if I'm honest with you, a right-sided centre-back is the only thing that we need right now, in my opinion. I don't want any more left-backs. We've had 20 since we've had the club. I don't want any, we've got about 15 at the club. So for me, there is only really the kind of number 8 position, the number 10 position, and the centre-forward position. In the summer, we definitely need to sort this Saka stuff out because Sterling isn't it. But in January, with the players that we mentioned, it doesn't excite me. And if I'm honest with you, the winter transfer window to Arsenal is just January. Nothing happens ever. It is just embarrassing. It's boring. It's like, you know, get it shut quick because it's pointless being open. Like, there's nobody that comes in. Like, it's embarrassing. Like, the last, I think we bought Trossard, didn't we? In one of them, and we thought, oh, you know, that might be decent.
Trossard and Jorginho, and I was like, I remember I crashed out over Jorginho fully. Like, I had the full done. Like, I cannot believe we signed Jorginho. And I did say Trossard was a Spurs level transfer. I was so pissed. I was so mad. I was
annoyed because, you know,
because we were linked to better players. We were linked to Caicedo and Mudryk.
That's it. Yeah.
And we were, and we ended up with those. And I'm just like, honestly, nothing is more, besides creating content for the international window, nothing hurts more than January. As an Arsenal content creator, nothing is worse. Because people are getting their hopes up and shit. And I'm just like, y'all need to be so for real. Like, you may get something, but it probably won't be what you... One January, we signed Kivior. And I was just like, okay, defender, here we go. You know? So, yeah, if there's anything, it's probably going to be like somebody that's out of favor at the club that they're at. And a lot of times that's older players or younger players. It's rarely somebody that people need to reach their goals, like Isak. You know, you're not getting Isak in January. So these Fergusons and these Arda Gülers are probably the types of players that you'd have availability to. But I hear your point on...
Ferguson is an interesting one because he's clearly highly rated. The problem I've got with Ferguson is he can't get ahead of Danny Welbeck. So he can't be that great. Like, let's just be real. And I love Welbeck, by the way. I've got a lot of time for Danny Welbeck and he's been on fire. But let's just be real. He's 34 years old. If Evan Ferguson is going to be this next elite level Harry Kane type striker, he is going to get ahead of Danny Welbeck at the age of 34. And he's not at the moment. I don't know why that is. I don't know if he's problems with injuries, but João Pedro looks better than him as well. So I don't know. We might get Evan Ferguson, but that might not be enough to win Arsenal a title because, funny enough, he's the third choice striker at Brighton. If I said to you now, do you want the third choice striker at Bournemouth? You'd go, what? Get out of here. That's essentially what we're doing. So I don't know. Evan Ferguson, I think, has a lot, to be honest.
I don't really like Evan Ferguson. I never have. I didn't understand the hype around him. I think he scored one hat trick, and people started writing like think pieces on how he was the next Kane, and he hasn't done anything since. And I'm just like, Delap looks better than him at Ipswich. I don't want him. So I don't know what to tell you guys. I really don't like the Evan Ferguson fake links, you know, and like you said, as much as people, they're not as fancy because they're not, I don't know, there's just like certain players that get hype. And I don't know if it's just because they're big or what it is, but Mateus Cunha is a better option, I think, or João Pedro is a better option. Those two players are actually performing in the Premier League right now. And that's what we need. We don't need this guy, you know, but some of you guys in the comment section, I know you guys rate Ferguson, but I'm like, what are you rating? He scored that one hat trick and dipped. We haven't seen him since. So yeah, somebody will take him though in the January window. Somebody will take him. I know you were a big like get Tony too. I know you were saying like we should get Tony too. So I know you're looking for more of somebody like experienced and ready to go. So yeah, Ferguson wouldn't be the guy. What about Osimhen? Like tons of people are like, what about Osimhen? Talk about Osimhen. What do you think about it?
Yeah, it was a strange one for me. I really felt off the back end of the season before last that he was going to be the next best thing. And when we were looking at a striker, I was like, well, it's got to be him, right? It's got to be Osimhen. Everybody wants him. At Napoli, he's won the title and he's got 50 goals in the season, whatever it was. And last season, he didn't really deliver. And he's ended up going on loan to Galatasaray. And let's be real, the only team that he's destroyed this season is Spurs. And anyone can do that. So let's be real. He's not really the striker that I would 100% want, but he is better than Jesus. So we have to be realistic. Ivan Toney, I would have taken the minute he went to Saudi. I knew that was done, but I would have taken him because he's a Premier League goal scorer. So for 40 million, I thought that was a steal, and I would have definitely done that. I honestly think if we want a striker, it's going to be Cesc or Isak, and I want it to be Isak, not Cesc.
Damn. If that cannot be the only two options. I'm so sorry. I know I keep going back to it, and people on this channel are probably like, "Can you stop talking about this?" But the biggest signing we're gonna make in the next 6 months is gonna be that sporting director, because we need to be able to identify talent outside of the obvious choices, because we ain't got the pockets for the obvious choices. There has to be somebody that can identify the talent.
I'm with you on that 100%. And I actually didn't mind Edu leaving. Some people cried about it. Some people saying, I was like, cool, let's move on. Let's get somebody that knows what they're doing. Because what we have right now, Jess, is actually quite embarrassing in terms of the lack of experience that we've got. Like, let's just be real. We've got owners that have no experience of football. We've got a board that has, I think the only one with experience on it is Richard Garlick. We've got an inexperienced manager. Like, yes, he's experienced now, but he's still quite inexperienced compared to some of the others. We need somebody that stands alongside Arteta, and he's not his yes man like Rosicky. All right, remember when we played football together, Mikel? None of that rubbish, yeah? Let's actually get someone in who goes, right, you don't know what you're doing in certain areas, but I do. Right, I'm going to help you. You're going to need me, and I'm going to need you. So let's work together. And there is times where you're going to get it wrong, and there's times where you have got it wrong. And I'm going to stand there next to you, Mikel, and I'm going to say, you're going down the wrong route here, fella. You need to go down here, and you're going to listen to me. That's what we need. Bring some experience in that's done it. Bring in a sporting director. Bring in the guy that's, Marco Nepe, someone like that from Bayern Munich, who actually went and got the Musialas of this world and the Harry Kanes of this world. Bring in somebody that goes, right, these are the two that you need. Because look at Bayern Munich now, they're flying. Yeah, they had problems last season, but they're absolutely killing it at the moment. This is what we need. Somebody like that. Luis Campos, all good from PSG, been there, done it. These people know what they're doing. Let's bring somebody like that in, who can actually say, look at my CV. It says I've won stuff. I've transformed clubs. I've gone and dealt with the business. I've gone and been CEO. I've gone and been sporting director. I know what I'm doing. I will help you. I've got experience in these scenarios. At the moment, we haven't got anybody. So people are talking about January. We don't even have a bloody sporting director to go and help Arteta with the signings at the moment.
Exactly. Honestly, even beyond the obvious, where we need to get Saliba and Saka on new contracts and give them those boosts. I really don't want to see us do too much, because I don't want this regime to touch any more money. And I know that that's going to sound so mean, but it's like, we need a sporting director to come in and kind of like shift things around and look at what we have. And we don't need to like make it worse, So the sporting director is super important. And you're right, like the experience level is just not there. And the one thing that we just have not done ever since, like, for the last 5 years or ever really, is just bring in the best in class. Like, whatever's the best in class, just bring it in. And so the only way to offset, like, I feel like a young manager that's learning, is bring in somebody that knows what he's doing on the talent side. And so I'll take Luis Campos, I'll take Olabe, I'll take those, because you can see that they can work with a smaller budget. Yeah, and bring in talent. So yeah, it's the biggest signing that we can make, because Edu, as much as he can throw Arteta and them underneath the bus and say that he didn't have a lot of power, he didn't bring us not one Brazilian but Marcus, and that guy was trash. Like, he was. I'll never forget watching his those Marquinhos tapes, and I was like, if you don't even look good in your YouTube comps, we're in for a bumpy ride. He'll be back in January, by the way, guys. Marquinhos will be coming back to us in January. So there you go. Temadayo says, Jess, I think most fans are myopic. Just because Ferguson has had issues doesn't mean he doesn't have all the potential we've seen. Personally, I want Isak. Yeah, he's had issues. I think even when he was playing well, I didn't take to him. So my feelings on him is just mostly like, I was like, I don't see what you guys are seeing. I think he's just a young player, and he's, at Brighton. And for a period of time, anything that Brighton had, Arsenal fans were like, we must. It's like they had I said, we must. They have Ferguson, we must. So it's like, I felt like it kind of fell in that. And so, yeah, he's had injury issues, but I still don't want him. Nico says City got one of the best directors out there, which we need to up our levels off the pitch with the talent level. We're just not on the same level as like Liverpool in their pomp or City and whatever. So Andre says, yeah, we need Mateus Cunha, Brazilian soccer player. I mean, I don't know if he's at the level that we need, but at least he's performing in the Premier League, which I feel like you need. Jagoon says, completely agree with the sporting director with experience. The links is a must. He has to have, good connections everywhere and also have good agent connections, because Hedu's only agent connection was, what was that guy's name? Y'all will tell me what his name was.
Kiev
But
Jarapka.
yes,
Yeah.
Raption. And it was like, let's be so serious. Like, why don't you have better connections? Red Skull says Monaco director would be perfect. Tarun says
Yeah,
no,
that's a shout.
yeah, no more project men players. Let's see. Natalie says hope Partey, Trossard new contract. Would you give Partey and Trossard new contracts? What do you think? Because they're probably both going to get them. So, what are your thoughts on
I
that?
think they're going to get them. If I'm honest, I actually think they're
Yeah,
going to
they
get
are.
them. If Partey can prove his fitness, then yes. Otherwise, no. Trossard, I think, is fine as a squad player. Yeah, I'd keep Trossard.
Yeah. See, you guys, I'm not the only one that's okay with Trossard staying. They be on me, but I think Trossard is just fine as a squad player.
Yeah.
And for a team that doesn't have reliable goals off of the bench, we need to not be so arrogant about getting rid of somebody that actually provides those. Whether you like him or not, or he frustrates you, he comes up with goals. So I don't know what to tell you. And I think every top team has a Trossard. What they don't have is somebody on the highest wages not performing, like Jesus. So yeah, Aha says Isak is very good, but 115 million is mad. Will be hard to deal with. Newcastle would impact our budget to spend in other areas like midfield winger. Isak can cover left wing, Cunha, Marmoush, Gyokeres perhaps. Those are all interesting names. Kwame says, hi, Dan and Jess. In my opinion, in the January transfer window, we should sign Osimhen. I don't know if that's possible or not. People are saying it is. Iris says, Trossard thinks he's a starter in his head. That's the problem. I'd rather somebody that thinks that they're a starter than somebody that acts like a squad guy. Like, I don't want people that are like okay with being on the bench. I like that Jorginho and Trossard look like they're pissed that they're on the bench. Like, I don't want somebody that like is okay with just collecting a paycheck. So I'm okay with Trossard's little attitude. I'm okay with it. I know he has one, but I'm okay with it. I don't have a problem with it. So yeah, so kind of moving away from that, because we agree. We need a striker. We need other things too. And we need to get them as soon as possible. Probably not going to happen in January, but we'll see where the chips may lie. So what you think the Premier League is gone? Do we have any chance of, getting a trophy this season? Because I said we need a trophy. Are you in the camp of any trophy we need for like a kind of like Arteta to stay and the project to continue? Or do you feel like it needs to be the big trophies?
The bare minimum I said was that we are challenging to the end and we win a trophy. And I don't care what trophy it is. If it isn't the Premier League, I would like it to be the Champions League or the FA Cup. But if I'm honest with you, I'd take the Carabao Cup as well. Because a lot of people laugh at that trophy, but actually it's the first one you can win. It breeds a lot of confidence when you win it. And also, I grew up on it, man. Like, that's the first trophy I remember us winning in '93. So when I look at that and I think 31 years now without a League Cup, 31 without a European, or 30, I think it is now, without a European trophy. That's too long, Jess. That's far too long. And even the FA Cup, which we all brag about and say is ours, it's 14 times. It's been 5 years since we won that. So let's get it back. I want to see trophies. Trophies are what we are supposed to be looking at ourselves target-wise at. And, that's ultimately how you look at how your club's doing, is by trophies. So I think that if we're going to be successful this season, we have to win something. You cannot be successful coming second and being trophyless. That's not a successful season. That's a progressive season, if you want to call it that, and say, we got a bit better, but it's still not a success, because you've got to do that, haven't you? And if you're not doing that at the end of the season, I'll be disappointed. I think we can win a trophy. I think this squad's good enough to win the trophy. I'm not sure the squad's good enough to win the Premier League, because I still think that with injuries and stuff, I'm not quite sure we're there. In comparison to the Liverpool and Cities of this world. But I do think that we're good enough to win a trophy, and I expect Mikel Arteta to win a trophy this season.
Yeah, I do too. I think like last season, I was kind of like, well, we need to win a trophy, but the context to me matters. This season, the context doesn't matter as much. By hook or by crook, I don't care who we got to steal from, who we got to knock over the head. I don't care. We need a trophy. And I don't care which one it is. Because I think, who said it in the comments? Because we spoke about this. Andy, I think, said in the comments was, this team just needs to taste success, and it doesn't matter what kind of success it is. They are nearly men, and we don't want them to be nearly men. We want them to
Yeah,
be winners. And I think once you win the first one, the hardest one is the first one. Once you get that, then you know what it feels like to win. You think about the
but
amount of players that we have in our team that have never really won anything in their career, it's quite a few. So I think anything would do. You said the Carling Cup or the Carabao Cup is the first thing that you can win. And to be honest, we've really gotten lucky with the draws, which we don't get very often. Crystal Palace next, and I think what we're in the semis or the quarters or one of
yeah,
those. We're
I mean, yeah,
yeah, semis. So yeah, I think we could we could win that. We could win that, and then whatever happens for the rest of the season is what happens. In the Champions League, we see that we can compete. Tomorrow, like, or yesterday was a really good example of Arsenal actually competing in Europe. I don't know like how you felt about it, but I just feel like we've always been really timid and we've never played our game. So we just go out and we may not get smashed, but we just never really showed up. Yesterday, we actually played our game away from home against an informed side. And I'm like, do that more. In Europe, you can't just play, reserved. I think you have to let your talent show. I think that's what Europe is all about in cup competitions. And we did that. So I'm expecting us to go pretty far in the Champions League as well and to win a domestic cup and at least make it difficult on Liverpool. Without a trophy, I don't know. I may not. I don't know if I can do another trophyless season, y'all. I really don't
no,
know. I don't think I have it in me. I really don't. We need that for sure. The Champions League. How far do you think we can get there? You think we can go a little bit further than last season? Because
yeah, I
we
think
weren't even good, and we
yeah,
did.
I think we're set up to go far in that competition. I do. I don't really see why. We should look at our squad and be fearing many of the teams. I would never want to go up against Manchester City or Real Madrid, and I've got to be real. I don't want to come up against Liverpool, and that was before I thought Arnie Slot was going to be,
Yeah,
delivering. Because in the Champions League, Liverpool are mad. Like they are the. I'd rather get City in the Champions League than Liverpool. Even the way they're playing now, I'll take that away. I would because Liverpool in Europe, it's just mad.
yeah,
So yeah, so I don't want to get Real Madrid or Liverpool in this competition. But other than that, I do fancy us. I do, and I don't think we should be going up against a PSG or a Bayern Munich or a Juventus anymore and going, "Oh my God, we're going out." Because let's be real, like other than Liverpool and City at the moment, we're the best in England. And then when you look at what we've got across Europe, I don't think there's any team there that I look at and go, "Well, no chance, absolutely no chance." So yeah, Barcelona might beat us or Bayern Munich might again, but really and truly, we should be getting quite far in this competition. We should be aiming to win it because that's what we should be doing at the elite mentality.
mhm.
But realistically, I think if we get to the semis, that would be a fair sort
Yeah.
of run, if you get me.
And I'm always like, okay, who are we going up against? Because if we get Real Madrid in the quarters or some shit, if we go out, I'm gonna be like, the game is the game, But we can't be going out to like the teams that we feel like we're better than. So it all depends on that. But you don't have to be the best team to win a cup. This team has been able to win cup competitions for a while. We rewatched. Remember, if y'all were in the watch along, we rewatched our final against Chelsea in that FA Cup. We were diabolical. We were terrible. Genuinely, the football was. You didn't like the football earlier on in the season. It was worse. So we've been in a position where we could win a trophy. I think we just have to push beyond like whatever little barrier it is, push beyond it, stick in the competition long enough to get a little bit of luck. And so hopefully we do that. I'm hoping for a deep run in the Champions League and one of those domestic cups. I think the Premier League is gone. Final thoughts, like the last thing I kind of wanted to just touch on is, who do you think so far has been our best and most influential player? First, I'll let you
Yeah,
do.
Yeah, first 11. I think this season our best player has been Thomas Partey. I really do. I think he's been our best midfielder. I think he's been our best outfield player. I probably would have given it to David Raya, but he's kind of dropped off a little bit, not in terms of bad performances, but I think it was like an elite level of saves that he was making at the start of the season. I think Thomas Partey has consistently been brilliant. I don't think you can look past Saka with his goals and assists and how important he's been. And I do think that he is one of our most important players. But I will give it to Partey because I think he's been consistent and I think he's been great. I think our most important player is probably Saliba because we've seen when he gets injured what happens. We crumble, right? I mean, against Liverpool, we were putting best we can out. And then in the season before last, we just completely crumbled for that season where we should have won the league when he got injured. So for me, I think he's our most important one. I'm not quite sure we've got cover for Saliba. I think we've got cover for Odegaard and Saka. Whether we believe it's adequate cover, maybe
Yeah,
another question. We don't even have cover for Saliba. Like one of the right backs has to play centre back. Do you know what I mean? So it ain't good when he goes out. So yeah, that's how I'd probably do that. I think Partey's been the best though.
Yeah, for sure. I know a lot of people have felt like Partey has been the best in the season, and I just wanted to address this really quick because, we all disagree on certain things, and I won't get into the nitty-gritty because it always brings down the mood, but people saying that I'm racist because I picked Timber and Saka and Odegaard as our best performers yesterday. In the same or earlier today, when in the same stream I said that I love Kanu, who's African, is very strange. Guys, I don't know where you guys are getting this from, but I'm not racist, and it's weird to say so. So, we all disagree with things, and he was good yesterday, and I think he has been good for the majority of the season. Whether I feel like we should move on from him or not doesn't change the fact that he performed well yesterday. So we can put that to bed, can't we? All right, guys, let's make sure that we like this video and subscribe to the channel on the way out. There's about, an hour until the game, and then I'm supposed to do the stream with you guys after, right? The Liverpool and Real Madrid game, correct?
After the Liverpool Real Madrid game, there's going to be a show tonight. So yeah, on Arsenal with a few people, so it'll be good. I look forward to it, Jess.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so this is gonna be cool. So make sure you guys can click the @ in the title of the YouTube video, and then you guys can go there, set your notifications and all that kind of stuff. So I'll be on there, and then tomorrow I'll be on Judge Mo's channel. So like I said, I'm trying to venture out a little bit more, come out of my little corner. So yeah. But like and subscribe and all that kind of stuff. This was a really cool day. We got 2 streams in and we're riding a high. So hopefully we ride that all the way through to smashing West Ham at the weekend. Subscribe to Dan's channel. And yeah, we will see you guys on the next one. Bye, guys.